Welcome everyone to our podcast here with Karen Ryan and
Jovi Sosa, and we also have
we have a
Lillybette.
special guest for you tonight. You're here on Too Much Is Never Enough, a platform where we're here to elevate people and to promote them. Everyone needs to be promoted. We're here to serve one another. So today we have a very special guest for you all, and I'm going to have her go ahead and introduce herself to you.
Hi, my name is Lillybette Enriquez.
And Lillybette's story is very important here. Today, we're in a position where people have a language barrier. Sometimes we don't want to hear the things that we need to listen, and sometimes we don't speak the things that we need to speak. But there are people that need to have an advocate and somebody to speak up for them, especially with another language. Today, in such a world of diversity, we bring to you Lillybette, who's going to tell us her story on how she became a translator through a personal story of her own. Lillybette, thank you so much for being here today. Tell us, how did you get started on going into translation?
So I was actually, at the time I was studying to be a pharmacy technician. I was pretty much towards the end of it. And it happened that a close friend of mine had to go to court. And I went to court with him. He just asked me to go because I wanted to be an attorney. And since I couldn't be an attorney, I love going to court, right? So that time I went to court with him, and the person who had to go in front of the judge before him, I heard that the questions going on back and forth between the judge and the person and the interpreter. I heard her say something that didn't really make sense. So then I said, you know what? I said, I don't want that to happen to anybody that I know. So at the time, the city colleges of Chicago were offering a interpreting course. So I said, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I already speak Spanish. I know medical terminology. So let me just go ahead and do it. So I signed up. I started doing it. And I want to say probably a few months later, my cousin kept on asking me to apply to be a pharmacy technician at her clinic. And I really didn't want to. I didn't want to work with her because we had a really good relationship. And I said, nah, you know what? I'm going to see you every day at work. Things are going to change. So she convinced me. I finally applied. And then I saw they had an opening for interpreting. So I applied for both, and they called me, and they actually considered me for both roles. And so I started interpreting then professionally, let's say. But then every time a family member or a friend has court, I always volunteer to go because I want to make sure that what is being said is the right thing. And not only that, I have a really close friend to our family who he was one of those cases that you hear or that you see a movie about being what's it called? Racial profile. So he's a construction worker. He was coming home from work that day, and as he was walking home, two cops called him to talk to him. And long story short, he ended up in jail. It was several years of going back and forth. They finally they released him after, it was around the holidays. He spent Thanksgiving and all the end of year holidays in jail. His church advocated for him, and from there on he started going to court. I think he was going at least once a month. So on his very last court date, the interpreter said again the same situation that I had witnessed with my other friend. So since this guy that I was in court with at the he had his backpack, right? And in the backpack he had a chisel. So when he said, well, he said it in Spanish, yo traía mi cincel, the interpreter sounded confused. And then she said, well, I had my weapon. So right away, I saw the face in the judge, and he took a break. Like everything was meant to happen. The judge called for a break, and I had a chance to speak to the attorney and tell him, hey, she used the word chisel. I said, that's not what, she used the word weapon. That's not what he meant. And I had already pulled up Google Translate to show them facts, right? Not just because I'm his friend, I'm trying to defend him. So I told him, I said, hey, I said, I'm an interpreter. Unfortunately, I'm not a court interpreter, so I can't jump in. But you need to tell them, I said, that she said weapon, and that's not the right term. The right and the proper way of saying it is chisel. And since then, I did not forget that word. So thanks to that, that I was able to catch it, he was he didn't go to jail, because when they asked the officers that had arrested him, why did you arrest him? Because he was a Latino. And I was so infuriated when they said that, because that's so unfair, that because he is a Latino, and just because he's dark skinned, or he doesn't look like like an American person, doesn't mean that he's a criminal. So I'm glad that I did. I remember using all of my PTO at the time to go to court every time he had to be at court.
Wow, that's amazing. I know when you were telling me the story, it was just shocking, especially what you had mentioned. So in so many words, Lillybette, what do you think that you're doing? What's the difference that you're making in the Latino community, especially with the translations that you're doing?
I see it as helping people. Yes, don't get me wrong, the money does help, but in my heart, before that, I had held so many other jobs. I had worked for a bank. I had worked for a cellular company. You name it, I pretty much did it. And then I was working for a very famous textbook company as a tech support. When my family at the time we only had one car, and my kids were little. My girls were, I want to say they were probably like in preschool and no more than second grade. And it was a rainy fall afternoon when I got home, my daughter said, Mommy, I was walking in the rain and it was so cold and I slipped and fell and my daddy had to pick me up. Oh my God, that right there, that broke my heart. And I said, you know what? I need to do something for my family. So because at the time I was working and going to school. So my husband and I talked about it, and I decided to just go to school so that I could pick up my daughters from school, and especially since the winter was coming. So when the time came for me to start looking for a job and using what I had learned, I was given the option. I remember that I was interviewed, and when HR called me, they said, well, we actually have two roles for you. We want to consider you for the interpreting, but also for a pharmacy tech. And I said, if I can be honest, I said, I really don't like pharmacy tech. I said, I like interpreting more because I felt like I could be more helpful. I said, I like interpreting more, but if I don't get the job as an interpreter, would you still consider me for the pharmacy tech? And she said, absolutely. So I went in knowing that it was going to be one or the other. And thankfully, I was able to be hired as an interpreter. And when the CEO of the company, of the clinic, interviewed me, he said, well, I see that you've had many good jobs. What tells me, or who tells me that maybe 6 months to a year down the line, you're not going to find a better job and leave us? And I told him, I was honest. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I've had many other jobs. And in all of those jobs, every day I pretty much thought, what is it that I can tell them so that I don't have to go to work today? How is it that I can stay home? I said, and I'm tired of doing that. I said, I realized that by being an interpreter, I can help many other people. And I told them too, I said, yes, money does help. I said, but I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to help my own community, my people. I said, because I don't want anyone to be hindered from getting medical help because they don't speak the language. And I thought he wasn't going to hire me. And he did. And that's how I got started in the medical field too. I worked for the company for like 6 years until I was given another option. And every time there's a chance for me to interpret, I jump in because I love doing it.
It's definitely a talent of yours and your passion. So I have a question for you. Do you work for a company, or do you own your own interpreter company? Are you an entrepreneur?
I am an entrepreneur, but I don't, I work for a company.
Okay.
I'm, how is it that they call it? Jack of all trades?
Yes. We all can relate, all three of us. I think in my lifetime, I've had, and by the age of 21, I had already worked 27 jobs. So that being said, in 2016, I quit corporate America, and I've been owning my own businesses since. So the thing about people that are jacks of all trades really know what their true passion is. And you finding your true passion in language and in advocacy and in helping with mental health. The translation between one person and another, and you being that middle person that's their voice for them, that's amazing. So the reason I asked you that is because something for you to consider would also be you opening up your own business. Even though you have a business, you can still do translation and do it from your own thing too, and eventually transition to that. So that when you said that, like, what can I say not to have to go to work today? None of us want to go and work for anybody. The true passion comes from within. So I love your story. And as busy as you are, prior to this conversation we started, can you tell everybody what you were doing this evening?
I was coaching. I coached a group of about 13 girls from kindergarten to 2nd grade. They are cheerleaders, and we actually also take them to competitions.
So our podcast, Being Too Much is Never Enough. This is for everyone to understand. You have 24 hours in a day. What are you going to do with those 24 hours? There's no excuses. Step up to the plate, service others, live your passion, and still be able to accommodate by taking care of other people. It's been such a pleasure having you on with us tonight, telling us your story and advocating for people and standing up for the truth and integrity. That's really what it is.
Absolutely. I love it.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else that you want to add to this, Lillybette? Especially, well, for me personally, I know that when you're telling me everything that you do, it was just, I was like, oh my God, you have to be in the podcast. Karen needs to talk to her.
I mean, our day here in our household starts, I want to say around, alarms start going off at 3:15 in the morning. And this is a time when we're barely making it home. My husband and my son, besides my daughter's helping me in the coaching, I feel like my husband and my son are my biggest cheerleaders. And when I want to quit and not go cheer, they're right there behind me. They help me. And that's why I think it's important as a family for all of us to help each other. Not everything is easy. We all have different characters, different ways of thinking, and different backgrounds. Why not? My husband comes from a background different than mine. And I think my kids have gotten a mixture of that. So it's not easy every day, but we're able to do everything. My husband, everyone in my family helps with our small business too. So we work Monday through Friday for corporate America. Saturdays or Sundays, we either have football games that we are cheering at, or we have our catering business that we are cooking for. So if it's not one thing, it's another. That's why our days are so long.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I love on the note of talking about the family unit that you're right, you're all different individuals, but together you work as a family, as a team, as a husband and a wife, and as a family unit with your children. Very important for a family to stick together. They always say a family that prays together stays together. It's wonderful. It's been wonderful meeting you, and thank you for sharing your story with everybody. And if anybody wants to, get in touch with you or reach out to you, how could they do that?
Oops, there we go. Did I lose you? No, I didn't. I can share my personal number with you guys.
Well, let's do an email maybe,
Okay.
or are you on Instagram? Can you share an Instagram or social media? Are you on?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what's your IG handle?
My kids laugh at my son is laughing in the background at my Instagram name because I twisted my married name, which is Vidal. So I twisted it to how is it, mijo? Dival. So it's like Diva, the L, and I believe it's the number 1. Let me yeah, it's Diva L1. That's my my user in Instagram.
Wonderful.
And
yeah. We're also here just to get people's, social medias, have people follow you in case they want to meet you on some type of different level, and wherever, they're at, get in contact with you. So it's been lovely meeting you. Thank you so much. And I feel so honored and so blessed to have heard your story and know that your family all works together. That's important for people to understand that they need to stick together. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your words. Thank you, Jovi.
Thank you, Lillybette. You have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Be blessed, ladies.